Hey y'all, how you doing today? Oh my goodness, I am so excited for today's video because I'm going to be sewing, which I haven't done yet on this channel. And I love sewing so much. It is how I started. It is honestly one of my favorite hobbies. And I'm just pumped because today we are going to be making coffee cup cozies. So let's go. What you'll need: some fabric, some interfacing, buttons, and some hair ties. So I am so excited for this project, you have no idea. So I made this pattern. I'm gonna show this camera because it'll be easier. I made this pattern back in 2016. You can see it says so right here. And I basically just made this by taking a cardboard coffee cup cozy that comes on your Starbucks or whatever you get, and I just carefully unfolded it, and then I traced it out on a piece of just normal paper, and then I added about an inch in width all the way around to allow for the seam allowances for when you sew it. So that's basically how I made this pattern. It wasn't too difficult at all. So if you want to make these, you can just take one of those and follow those steps. So I have this beautiful fabric here. This is just a scrap piece of fabric that I actually had used the first time I had made these. This is what I had left over, so I figured I would just work with this today. So I'm going to fold it in half. Actually, I'll fold it in half the other way so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to just fold it in half like this, and then I'm going to line up my cozy. I already have this one edge cut out, but if you didn't, you could just line it up in the center here, like so. And I'm just going to go ahead and throw some sewing pins in there because I know that if I didn't pin it and my sewing teacher saw this, she would yell at me. So I'm going to pin it. So I have it pinned down now on my fabric, as you can see. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to cut it out. And the reason I have this fabric folded in half is because I need two of these pieces. So when I cut all the way around now, I will end up with the two pieces. So I'm going to do that. I am okay. All right, so now I have my two pieces cut out. I'm gonna take out my pins. And look at this, I have the two outer pieces for my coffee cup cozy. Now, you would do the same thing with your interfacing. So basically the interfacing is just going to be a layer of liner in between these. So you'd line it up. So it would add just a little bit of extra insulation into your cozy here. I goofed and I forgot to get more interfacing, and I happen to have just one piece left over, cut into the coffee cup cozy size for this project. So that was lucky. But you would just do the same things. You only need one piece of interfacing per coffee cup cozy. So you could just lay it out, put your pattern on top, and cut out just one piece for your cozy. I am so sorry that I forgot to get more. I'm sorry. But we're gonna go ahead and go on to the next step. So if you've never sewn before, Fun fact is that you sew things with the outer pieces together. We say like sides together, right sides together, because then you will sew, and when you flip it, it'll create those nice seams that you don't see. So you always want to put your fabrics like sides together. So we are going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to line them up. They don't have to like line up perfectly, but you want to get them as perfectly lined up as possible. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my piece of interfacing. There's actually two sides to interfacing, a soft side and kind of a scratchier side. You want the scratchier side to be the one that is down on your fabric, so I am going to flip all of it over because the scratchier side is down here. So I'm going to put, this here is the scratchy side, so I'm going to put down on my fabric. And I am just going to pin this down all the way around. And it's always better to put in more pins than you think you're gonna need. So just be aware of that. All right, so I have all of mine pieces pinned together. I am actually going to, just real quick, I'm going to move these two pins over, and I'm going to replace this one with a red pin. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put that pin back in, put that one over, and then I'm going to take out these two purple pins on the bottom and replace them with red pins, because we need to leave an opening at the bottom here so that when we flip our cozy right side out, we have a space to flip it out through. Oh, I don't know what that was. Oh boy. So I'm going to put these two red pins in just as a reminder, like, hey, stop sewing here, so that you have a space to flip it. So now that we have it pinned, we're going to get into sewing. Woo! All right, it is time to get sewing. So I'm going to go ahead and line up my first red needle here with the needle of my sewing machine, just so that I know I'm starting at the red pin and I'm going to end at the other red pin way back here. Also, I personally like to sew with my presser foot lined up on the edge of the fabric, just because it's a little bit of an easier guide for me. And with the positioning of my needle off to the left side here, it does create that 5/8 seam allowance, which is standard with sewing. So I'm going to go ahead and just sew all the way around until I get to that other red pin. All right, so sewing puns. Okay, wow. So I have sewn it all the way around, and now I'm going to take the opening that I have. Oh, that's not in focus. Hello, do you want to focus? Okay, there we go. So I'm gonna take the opening that I have and just turn this all the way through it. If you leave a wider opening than I did, it will be a lot easier to turn your fabric right side out. I didn't do it. I broke my nail. Oh my gosh. Ah. Okay, well, that's fine. It happens. So usually what I would do with things like this is I would take the end of like a paintbrush and I would use it to jab into the corners to kind of poke them out a bit. I forgot to grab one, so I'm just going to use the edge of my scissors and I'm going to be super, super careful that I don't push through the fabric. But all this does is it just pushes out these corners. If you can see, this corner here is kind of, you know, bent in a little bit. It's out of focus again. My goodness, what is happening today? Okay, so if you can see, it's kind of like bent out of shape. So I'm just gonna take this and just push out that corner. Hi.
Are you in the middle of recording?
Yes. Okay, sorry. My mom came in and she needed my help with something, but now we're good. So I'm gonna finish turning out my corners. I have 2 more corners to go and then we'll keep going. Okay. So now I have all my corners turned out. And you can see we're starting to get that semblance here. So I forgot. Oh my goodness. I forgot. How did I forget? All right, well, I'm flipping it back inside out now. Wait, do I have to? No, we'll make it work this way. You know what? We're gonna wing it because I messed up. I forgot to put the hair tie in to hold the button. Unbelievable. I'm unbelievable. So what you would usually do is before you sew it, you would take a hair tie and you would line it up in here, like on the inside. And then when you sew it and you flip it out, you'll have that part sticking out. So when you like go to fold it, you have a nice little tie that you like attach to your button. But I forgot to put it in. I am insane. So I am going to rip a hole if I can find my seam ripper. Things are going missing. There it is. I am going to just rip a hole in the side here with my trusty seam ripper and put it in and just sew it in now. There we go. So I'm going to, usually what you would do is before you like turn it inside out, you would cut this in half just so like you don't have the whole thing and you can use one hair tie for 2. So I'm just gonna cut mine in half like that. And I'm gonna wedge it in here. I can't believe I forgot. And then I'm gonna pin it in. If you're following this in real time with me, I am so sorry. And my advice to you would be, don't follow anything I do in real time because I change it every 5 seconds. So don't follow in real time. But I have this pinned in here now. And we'll just pretend like it was sewn in. And we'll continue on. So what you are going to do is to close up this hole, and to make this lay a little flatter, we are going to top stitch this entire thing. I am just going to pin my hole here closed just to make it a little bit easier on me. I know that the hole is here and that I need to be extra careful to make sure that I close it up. So top stitching is a little different because you don't want to do that 5/8 seam allowance. You kind of want to follow the edge. So if I zoom in here and I focus, what you're gonna see maybe is that I have this right here is the center of my presser foot. I have the center of my presser foot lined up with the edge of my fabric, just so that I can keep my stitches nice and close to the edge, and they can all look nice and pretty. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Woo! So I have top stitched all the way around. I'm going to trim off my extra pieces of thread. Give them a nice little trim here. All right. And surprisingly enough, with forgetting to put this in, it actually feels really tight in there. So yay. So now okay, I have threads everywhere. So now when you fold it, we're gonna sew a little button on here so it'll attach and it'll make this cute little cozy. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. Okay, so we are back. We have our beautiful cozy. So I have picked out from my buttons this beautiful like little pinkish lavender button. So I'm going to use this. I am going to kind of figure out where I want it placed, because of course this is a little stretchy, but I think it's better to have it tighter just in the event that you want like a smaller or larger cup. So from looking at this, I've kind of just lined up the edges here like that, and I think that would mean my button would fall about here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a sewing pin and I'm going to put that pin right there, just so I have this marker of where I want my button to go. So I'll sew it on there like that. But I need to thread a needle first, if I can find one. Where? I'm so prepared today, aren't I? Like, just such a pro, honestly. I mean, come on. I'm spilling everything. Okay, I have a needle. I am now going to thread it. So you can either use like the same color thread you use to do like the sewing and the top stitching on here, or you can use one that matches the button. I'm using a lavender thread just because I think it's a little nicer. But I have done where the thread doesn't match the button before, and I like that as well. So I'm just gonna get a whole bunch of thread here. Okay. I'm gonna tie my ends together. There's a lot of like licking things or licking your fingers with sewing, more than people expect. Wash your hands, please. Don't get sick. Wash your hands. Just throwing that out there. So I'm going to go ahead and start sewing my button on. So you can either try to get like underneath the fabric and sew it on where you won't see the button over here. I don't care as much, so I am just gonna go straight through the back and through my button and just call it a day. I am a big fan with 4-hole buttons doing the cross button method, where you kind of cross the threads over each other. Oh my gosh, can I find the hole? Where? That's what she said. Ugh. There we go. So there. I'm gonna take this out now because I don't need it since I've started sewing my button on. And I'm just gonna go ahead and keep sewing until it's tightly attached. Ow! I just stabbed myself with the needle. I feel like my button is on there pretty tight, so I'm going to say that that's all well and done. So I'm just going to trim a large length of thread because I like to secure a little bit of an extra knot, so I literally just tie this into like a knot. I do it a couple times, like 3 or 4, just for safety's sake, to make sure it's really tight in there. And then I just trim off the excess. And now you can just stretch this over there, and look at it. You have a beautiful coffee cup cozy to keep your hands from burning on your hot coffee, or to keep your coffee warm in the winter, which is really nice. Look at that. I wish I had a mug down here to put it on and I'll show you, but we'll pretend my hand is a coffee mug. Look at that. So cute. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe. If you have any ideas on what you want to see me do next, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear what you guys want to see me do. And if you do decide to make this yourself, my social media is linked below. Send them to me. I'd love to see what you guys have been up to. But until next week, goodbye.